We are looking to enhance the welcome message project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. Now, welcome message is interesting because we are creating functions which are robust as well as flexible. And that's why the main objective is to learn about, let's say, try and accept statements, the various, let's say, details of it and so on. Now, in this video, we will do something interesting. Notice I am asking my player to create a short form as usual. It tells me, look, hope you managed to pass the stage. And then it tells me, look, try to see how lucky you are by using this another function. I've created this called read file to see your luck. So if I do, for example, read file, it tells me it looks like I am out of luck today. So what exactly? Now, the main motivation for this bonus idea is to explore file input output and the errors that can happen when we do so. So now let me get to my project over here. So here's a short form function. Remember, this creates a short form for me, short code for me, but it also catches a bunch of errors. So that's the try and accept. If everything goes well, I return a value, and finally I print this statement. Hope you managed to pass the stage. Remember, finally is the part which is run regardless of whether there was an error or not an error. So what I will do is that I'll say, okay, look, inside this finally, let me basically, let's say, write a file. I will not always write the file. In fact, I'll use a random number to figure out if I want to write the file or not. So I just go and say random.randint. Let's say, between say 1 and 100. Now this is just numbers, right? But basically I'm saying, okay, look, approximately 10% chance that this will happen because I'm picking a number between 1 and 100. And if it's less than 10, then I write a file. Now we have seen this before and we'll see this again. For example, when we do the Wordle project, we read data from a file. When we do the Sports Heroes project, we are going to, let's say, write data to a file. So I'm just going to say with booster.txt, set txt mode equals to say w. So which means I'm going to write this as file. Well, let's write in that file, file.write. Again, just for fun, right? So you are lucky. Notice the code inside finally will always get run. However, the file will get written depending on the random numbers, right? So write to a file. Now I will create one more function as we discussed earlier. So I just go and say def, let's say read file. Now, the idea here is that I'll try to read the file, but again, if the file does not exist, then that leads me to an error. But let's take it, little slowly. So I just go and say, look, let me just take this whole thing once again, but this time round, I'm going to follow pretty much the same statement, but I will use mode equals to R. R means to read. So I'm saying, well, open this file for reading. And once you do this, well, so since we read the file, I just go and say print, let's say file dot read line, right? So it's going to read that one line that we have written, and it's going to print it on the screen. Let's just see this working and see what is the challenge that's coming up here. So I now run my code. I create a short form. Notice it tells me try read file to see your luck. Now, if I were to try and read file, there are two scenarios. The file may have been written, the file may not have been written, which means that when I try to read this file, potentially there is an error. And in fact, that's exactly what happens. It tells me no such file or directory booster.txt, and that's not surprising because in my code I'm not always writing the file. So there's only a chance that I'm writing it. How do I prevent this from happening? I mean, how do I, let's say, handle this error nicely? Well, I can encapsulate this whole thing in a try and accept again. So I just go and say try. For example, let's say, let's say try doing this, except, let's say file not found error as E. I mean, I can do that, or let's say, I think I just leave it here. I can print you are out of luck today. Now, obviously, this message is just for fun, but this makes the function, let's say, not crash. So it's like, it's kind of 10% chance that you're lucky, otherwise you're unlucky. When I run this again, now again it tells me try read file. I do this, it tells me you are out of luck today. Because if I look at the, let's say my file system here, I see that there's no booster.txt that has been created. So that's why, there's no file found. However, now notice because of the try and accept, I'm no longer crashing. It just tells me you are out of luck today. Now let's try this once again. This time round, I do see that a booster.txt has been written. I can see it here. And when I try to read, let's say read file, it tells me you are lucky. Now, a very interesting question comes up. For example, in this case, booster.txt got written and it tells me you are lucky. However, now when the player plays this again, I do not want this file to be available with me, which means that I must also go and delete this file. I can do that by importing, say, OS. OS means operating system. And I can just go and say os.remove, say booster.txt. And if I do that, you notice the booster has been taken out. But then the question is, what happens if I do this again? Well, once again, it leads me to file not found error, which means I can. Now, what I'm getting at is that when the code first starts, I will find out if this file exists. If it does, I will delete it. Otherwise, I will let it be. So I just get back to my code over here. I must first import OS. So that is needed. Now I go down and I say, well, look, try, to, let's say, os.remove, say, booster.txt. So if it's present, it will get removed, except, if there's any kind of error, let's say, and again, I can just say file not found error. I just say pass. So I don't do anything, just move on. So this will keep the code clean, let's say, without crashing, right? So I can just go and say, well, delete booster.txt if it is present. Otherwise, ignore it. Now, again, obviously, you could have done this with if else, but since we are focusing on try and accept, I thought this is a good usage. You notice I create the short form and I do see that booster.txt has been created. When I do read file, it says you are lucky. But when I run the code again, notice booster.txt has been taken out. Now let's say I run my code again and this time booster.txt has not been created. Obviously, when I do read file, it will tell me you're out of luck. It doesn't crash. But when I exit this and I run this again, you notice there is no problem either, because basically I tried this try and accept statement. I tried removing it. Since there was a file not found error, I just did a pass. Pass basically means just move forward, do nothing and move forward, as we have seen before, right? Nice usage of, try accept file not found error. Obviously this can be done differently. Obviously more things can be done. For example, you may want to write the entire shortcode in a file and try reading it. Bunch of stuff is possible, but this is the basic idea, which I hope has been interesting to you. In general, I think building activities of this sort is quite interesting. Once we build them, we enhance them, we think about the different ways the concepts are being applied. I think our learning becomes very clear. Look at our website, www.ybyte.in, because that's how we learn Python programming. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.